תודה, בובי.
It's good to see you again, you and your wife, and to see you all, Yedidia Atlas, the many students sitting here from Hebrew University, from the Masa program. You can clap because in addition to the Lindenbaum Institute, we have students from the University Center at Ariel. And many other distinguished guests. I noticed that at the Herzliya conference, nobody spoke about Herzliya. At the Caesarea conference, nobody spoke about Caesarea. But at the Jerusalem conference, I am going to speak about Jerusalem. But just before I say a few words about Jerusalem, I'd like to say something about this specific place where we are now meeting. A few stories above us here. On the floor, there were pools of blood belonging to an Israeli hero, a general in the IDF, a staunch supporter of the land of Israel, Rechavam Ze'evi of blessed memory. Over 8 years ago, he was murdered here. His murderer is in an Israeli prison. And as long as I am Prime Minister of Israel, he will continue to sit in an Israeli prison. One of our responses to that murder was that we are about to launch a site to commemorate Gandhi's heritage, the love of the people and the land of Israel. We're doing that with the Ze'evi family. We already have a site set aside, and we're going to do that soon. Remember, Gandhi was a person for whom the Jewish heritage in its land was something so important. It was his very conscience. On Sunday, we're going to hold a special cabinet session held at Tel Chai. This was the place that Trumpeldor was killed. We're going to bring a comprehensive plan for government approval, the biggest plan for enhancing our national heritage and reconnecting to our roots. It's called the Tamar program, standing for infrastructure and heritage. And we are going to rebuild and restore hundreds of archaeological sites and other sites that are important for Zionist history. We're going to take archives and take songs, books, poems, films, testimonies. We're going to take all this material, photographs, and restore them. We're going to have two paths, the historical path, a route that will connect archaeological sites, and the Israeli and Zionist experience track that will connect other sites. For example, the hall in Tel Aviv where David Ben-Gurion declared the establishment of the State of Israel. Were you ever there? Have you visited there? Have you seen that place? It's peeling. It's deteriorating. We're going to restore it. And the same holds for many dozens of sites. Other nations with a shorter history than our own, and not always such a splendid history as we have, they dedicate hours of labor to taking care of their historical sites as a heritage for the next generation. And if they need that, we need it all the more so, because it's the very basis for our existence here. It's the very basis for our being here, right here in Jerusalem. That's why we return to Jerusalem, to Zion. And Gandhi understood that full well, and so do we. Ladies and gentlemen, this conference dealt with policy, economy, aliyah, the political situation, the Iranian threat, our relations with the U.S., security threats. All these core issues relate to our future and our present. But the heart and soul, the real core of it all is Jerusalem. Jerusalem is the capital of Israel. Jerusalem is the capital of the Jewish people. Jerusalem is reunited, one city, and it will remain undivided. The vision, the foundation that enabled the Zionist dream and the state of Israel, Zionism, this word derives from Zion. Zion is Jerusalem. The Zionist vision is the vision of Jerusalem. It's the dream of Jerusalem, we may say. The dream of Jerusalem rebuilt Jerusalem. It rebuilt Tel Aviv as well. It rebuilt that dream, our country, our land, as it renewed itself. Yearning for Jerusalem brought the waves of immigration here from Russia, from Yemen, from Poland, from Morocco, Ethiopia. One of the most moving things that I hear is the stories of Ethiopian Jews who immigrated here walking. They walked and they lost members of their family on the way. And constantly on their lips was the word Jerusalem. At their annual convention, I heard them. I heard their bond, the bond of many generations that never lessened. This bond existed in Europe under the worst persecution any nation has ever experienced. This bond was not weakened in Africa, in the most remote places. And this enables us to understand the strength of our nation. The dream of Jerusalem was the source of energy that motivated the pioneers and our founding fathers and the early military and political leaders, the heads of our society, of our economy. All these people, for them, Jerusalem was our capital. For 3,000 years it's been our capital. It was never the capital city of any other nation, only of ours. Now, if you go out and turn left to the French Hill neighborhood, you'll find yourselves in a street where Jews and Arabs live as neighbors. 2 streets on, in the other direction, you'll see a combination of Sheikh Jarrah and Mea Shearim, where these 2 neighborhoods meet. This is coexistence. I'm not saying everything is rosy here in Jerusalem. we have to be honest and say not all streets are as beautiful as this street. There's a lot of work to be done here to bring the eastern part of the city up to standard. We have to give them the same kind of services that we have in the western part of the city. And I approve of the mayor's work in giving more and better services to the East Jerusalem residents, because that's part of our responsibility as a sovereign here in Jerusalem. But Jerusalem does offer free access, freedom of movement to everyone, freedom of worship to everyone. And this should have been ensured for centuries, and it wasn't. It happened only when Jerusalem was reunited under Israeli sovereignty. Only then was there freedom of worship for all religions. Residents of Jerusalem, the Arabs, can go to the Malcha Mall, and the Jewish residents can go shopping in the old city shuk. But we want to deepen this coexistence and peace in Jerusalem. And this too is part of the dream. You may say it looks like a pipe dream today, but no, it's possible. On condition that Jerusalem will never again be divided and will not fall prey to quarreling factions and parties and religions and become a center for terror attacks. This may seem a really impossible dream to attain, strengthening peace and coexistence, but it is possible. Many things that have been done here in Israel and in Jerusalem were just a short while ago a dream that many never thought we could make happen. But this dream of peace between Israel and its neighbors and between all the neighborhoods and all the residents of Jerusalem, this dream is under threat now by looming clouds. We are threatened by radical Islam, headed by Tehran, and its tentacles wind out to Hamas, Hezbollah, and other terror organizations. All of these undermine the very existence of the State of Israel, and they speak explicitly and clearly about desiring to wipe Israel off the map. But it's not just a threat against Israel, it's a threat against the free world in its entirety. The free world, and this is true, but I'm correcting what I wrote here. It's a threat to the very existence of our world as we know it. It's a threat to Israel, of course. Iran's stockpiling of weapons threatens Israel, threatens the Middle East, and threatens the entire world for many reasons. Let me give you one of them. There are leaders of important countries in the Middle East, and they say quite clearly and have been saying, if Iran gets nuclear power, we'll get nuclear power. And when this nuclear arms race begins here in the Middle East, who knows where it will end up. Iran's race for nuclear power is a threat to the entire world. I've said these things. I said them to Sarkozy. He's the head of the Security Council this month, and I said the same thing to President Obama when I met him in Washington, and recently